as well. Join me up on the different platforms. We're streaming live already on youtube.com/smooth981 FM Lagos. Make sure you join using the live chat option. You can leave your comments up on the live chat. I'll be able to read them out as the show goes on. You can also send WhatsApp messages to 0809 4440981 or take things over to Twitter with the hashtag FreshlyPressed981. So, Ade, we'll get into the stories. And the first one that we've got coming up is in from the Punch newspaper. Federal government plans 2.4 billion naira rehab centers for repentant terrorists. So the article goes on to say that the federal government is considering establishing two disarmament, de-radicalization, rehabilitation, and reintegration centers for repentant members of Boko Haram and other terrorist groups. This is according to a presentation that was made by the coordinator of the NCTC, that's the National Counterterrorism Center, and this coordinator, Rear Admiral Niem Musa, retired, made this presentation to the House of Representatives Committee on National Security and Intelligence, and it's part of the capital projects for the center for 2023, basically coming in to defend the 2023 budget proposal for the center.
Yeah, so the center was, well, it came up as a result of the act in May 2022, and I guess they started their work. And one of the major complaints they had was, excuse me, was the fact that because it came up in the middle of the year, they didn't have enough funding, so they were going to start most of the work from next year. And in order to do that, they needed about 3.1 billion for capital expenditure. 2.4 will go into building the centers for repentant Boko Haram terrorists and other terrorists, as the case may be. Um, However, I think when they submitted their budget to the defense, I mean to the budget office, they cut down their capital expenditure to about 480 billion, and so they're asking the National Assembly to please approve a total of about 5.2 billion in terms of budget, where I think about 1.18 billion will go in terms of recurrent expenditures, salaries, and other operational things to set out the office fully. Um, the truth for me is setting up all this counterterrorism and a number of other agencies like we have, they're becoming too much, because within this security system, you already have departments who function as, have all this, and now this is another agency, or based on an act that was passed in 2022, that is going to be gulping the monies that we don't have.
Now, what they say about this, about the NCTC, is that it's supposed to be there to help with the coordination of all the different counterterrorism efforts. So, I mean, wouldn't you say that's a good thing? And speaks to the problem that you have just highlighted.
Well, yes, it is. But however, at this juncture, you have the Minister of Defense, who is going to coordinate a number of all those things. And even within the security outfits, I'm sure you have all these other things that would you have all these other departments that work along with the counterterrorism team. However, like I said, this is another almost 6 billion that we're looking at in terms of monies that is going to go to another agency. Already we're going to run a budget deficit that is almost 10, 11 trillion. And how does that help us again in 2023, when we're continually complaining that we don't have enough funds to? And that's one of the first complaints they had, because they were set up the act came about in the middle of 2022. There was no budget for it, and so on. So let's see how it goes, and let's see whether the National Assembly will, because they're asking the National Assembly to approve their original budget of almost 6 billion naira, towards ensuring that they can set up the center, its operations, bring in the staff, and a number of things. And this is additional staffing and recurrent expenditure. Yes, the capital projects is just for the first year, but we're looking at a possible recurrent expenditure every year of about 2 billion, if not more, if the wave of terrorism in Nigeria continues to increase.
Well, it's interesting that we're even talking about this at this point because, and it's something that Monguno had said, which was that Major General Monguno had said, which was that the government is looking at leveraging soft power in order to complement the counterterrorism um, efforts. And he was talking about one of the initiatives called Yellow Ribbon, supporting women and children of terrorists, and talked about the rehabilitation of terrorists as well, which this is focused on. But then we've also got this news of coming from outside, and I wonder how much external forces will play into the work that we can do. We've got a U.S. senator who has called on the who has requested a review of U.S. security assistance and cooperation programs here in Nigeria. And I wonder if that will have impact.
Well, I do think it would have, because like you said, it's not just to fight counterterrorism, but it's also to provide some form of succor for whether those who were forced into it, who are trying to get some form of rehabilitation. Like I said, I do think it's a good idea, but my 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 issue is the amount of money that's going to be spent
Mm.
at this point in time, at a point in time where there are a number of um, IDP camps that we can't look after the people who are there, and these camps that are already in existence. Are you going to use part of them as some of the areas that you're going to put these facilities in, or we're going to build another set of facilities in Abuja, and say, okay, well, that's where we're going to rehabilitate them. And then the second question will now be, so if you start with one area, what happens to all the then the next thing you hear is, oh, maybe we need to have a center in all six geopolitical zones.
Because this is not supposed to be just focused on Boko Haram
No. It's
members.
focused
Yeah,
on rehabilitating terrorists,
all
or
terrorists. Yes,
yeah, terrorists who have
who
received
have,
their
yes, coming under amnesty
yeah.
programs. Okay, from the Vanguard now. After doctors, mass exodus of teachers from Nigeria looms, says the article. And so it goes on to say that currently 350,000 Nigerians are qualified for employment in the United Kingdom, which is going to commence their employment window for qualified Nigerian teachers, and that is from February next year, February 2023. So, according to the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria, from here on out, we'll be calling it the TRCN. It says um, that there are 350,000 out of 1.5 million teachers who have been certificated and assessed qualified. Um, and so will also, and these who have teachers who have been assessed qualified will then be exempted for sitting for the qualifying courses, and basically they will be those who are eligible to apply for qualified teachers status in the United Kingdom. And so they're saying that, well, that's what we might be seeing next, the wave of teachers.
This is just the public sector. So let's start to imagine what could happen to those who are qualified and are working in the private sector. Like we've seen with the brain drain in IT, in, in medicine, we might just be looking at that again in come 2023, and nobody is saying anything about it. They're saying that it's exploitation by what's it called, people who want some form of economic betterment in their lives. Nigeria is not providing it. The economic situation, the insecurity is, and even the conditions of working.
I have to say, so looking at what the Nigeria Union of Teachers said, and I'm going to quote the Lagos State chairman of the NUT, who said, yes, the truth is that Nigerian teachers are good and great, and they deserve commendation for performing under conditions that are not conducive. It's not that Nigerians are not good, the atmosphere is simply hostile.
Which is what we're saying now.
Yeah.
So you have a possibility aside from Nigerians, you have Indians, you have Pakistanis, you have Zimbabweans, and a number of yeah,
Singaporeans and so on and
so
so
on.
forth.
But like you've seen with the exit of the UK from the um, European Union, this is what is happening. So you're going back to your old Commonwealth countries
Mm.
who have a high level of English speaking teachers who have been teaching for years, who have the experience and can easily fit into your system. And like you said, out of 1.5 million, 350,000 have already passed the UK certification, the QTS, which they are going to be issued from next year. So what exactly are we looking at? We're looking at another brain drain in Nigeria. Like I said, this is the public sector. What happens to those who are already in the private sector seeking better economic welfare in their lives? And it's just sad that over the last 6 7 years we've seen how the economy has gone down, how more and more people are looking to run away from Nigeria. At the point in time, Nigerians were looking to come back to Nigeria.
It's interesting because the focus that we've seen of late, of in as far back as I can remember now, in these recent few years, has been on the um, tertiary education. But what we're looking at here is more primary and secondary
Yeah, this is
education,
we've always said
and
that,
that's the
and we've always said
mm,
that on Freshly Pressed. We are not focusing, and of course, when you very soon now,
is this going to
this
cause us to focus on our
I doubt it. I doubt it. I really do doubt
that
it.
would be worrying.
It's the same way we've not focused on the health sector. It's the same way we've not focused on primary and secondary education, which are the bedrock of any country to become the literacy level to go that high.
Hmm.
If you have you can imagine the number of children out of schools. This is 1.5 million teachers, and this is the public sector we're talking about. 1.5 million teachers for how many students in class in schools?
Oh boy, I'm just staring down that barrel. Are you? Let us know. Send your WhatsApp messages into 0809 981. Take things over to Twitter using the hashtag FreshlyPressed981. And of course, up on youtube.com/smooth981FM Lagos. Leave your comments on the live stream. Okay, so getting back into the swing of things now, we've got INEC coming out again to talk about the 2023 elections and how they might be under constraint. Rising attacks and vote buying threaten polls. This one in from the Punch newspaper. INEC cries out. So on Monday, the Independent National Electoral Commission expressed concern over the persistent attacks on its facilities and the successful outcome of or successful conduct of the 2023 elections. So this is there's 2 day workshop on political violence and election security organized by the National Defense College. And so we'd already heard from INEC chairman Mahmoud Yakubu, who said that there needs to be an end to the attacks. And he was represented by the National Commissioner and Chairman of Information and Voter Education, Festus Okoye, who stated that although we have recorded some reverses in some of the states of the Federation in relation to attack on some of our facilities, we have the capacity to recover from these attacks. But he went on to talk about the fact that since the 2019 general elections up until 2022, they've recorded 50 attacks in 15 states of the Federation. But if they and they've been recovering well from the attacks, but if it continues, uncertainty looms.
Well, if it continues, uncertainty looms. However, what this is speaking to is what are the security agencies doing to provide the necessary security for INEC offices, INEC materials, and all. Not too long ago, over the last 1 month, we know that there have been 3 or 4 attacks in 3 different states, and this is worrying and is worrisome. And like he said, if it continues into January, February, what it then means is that some areas, you now have to be, shuttling to be able to get the materials into those places as quickly as possible. But I do think that INEC has so far so good. They've done credibly in terms of whether you talk about the registration and the preparation and the continued um, communication to the public to let them understand what the requirements are. I still believe that there will be free and fair elections in February and March 2023. But the security agencies, for me, should start to do their work the way it's meant to be done, providing security services for these are key and essential service areas in ensuring that Nigeria's democracy, which has been on since 1999 now, continues into the future.
Mm. And he went on to further states, further bring up the possibility of a runoff election occurring come February if we don't see any clear winner. Okay, let's take a look at your messages now. This is Daniel from Festac, who says there is a counterterrorism unit in the police force. There is DSS, NIA, and the Nigerian military forces. So tell me, what's the difference? The social welfare is being taken care of by Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Education, and by the Ministries of Humanitarian Affairs, Education, and the Northeast Development Ministry. It's not a good idea unless you can tell me what these other MDAs are doing. And he's talking about funding the NCTC.
Which is what we said
Yeah,
initially.
you had said that. Dami from Ikorodu says our elites have already sent their children to the UK and other countries. Our tech bros, bankers, and medical professionals have gone. The teachers are simply going to join them. It's the exportation of talent that the Minister of Labour, Chris Ngige, was boasting about. This one in from Jonah from Isola says it's ironic that the same UK that is charging Nigerians fees to write English proficiency tests is eager to harvest our qualified teachers to boost their education system. So they now trust our teachers to teach in what language? Hypocrisy. I have to say, there is some validity to that. Why are we as an English speaking country uh, forced to write proficiency tests? And now the teachers are going questions. All right, this one
Good
in from.
questions.
Okay, let me see. Dr. I at CMS says, um, is the teachers training cheap as opposed to that of the doctors? He says, I'm amused by the analysis of the teachers' JAPA. Is their training cheap as opposed to that of the doctors? If yes, QED, so the teachers can JAPA. Nigerians, not just the government, are not serious about having the best interests of the country. They see things mainly from how it personally affects them. The teachers are leaving for the same reasons as the doctors, the nurses, the IT engineers, etc. Rather than addressing the fundamentals, we're trying to ban immigration. Good luck, Nigeria, says Dr. I at CMS. And D from Alausa says there's a need for enlightenment of those wishing to relocate abroad, that there's also significant economic upheaval abroad. As we speak, the United Kingdom is experiencing massive strikes. True. And we even talked about the nurses' strike, quite large one that happened last week, I think
There's
was.
inflation all
Um,
over the world.
yeah, inflation, cost of living crisis all over the world, and winter is coming, guys. Or winter is here. It's December, isn't it? Winter is here over in the UK. You need to pay energy bills, and they're high. It goes on to say. Many nurses in the UK and other professionals say they're not able to pay bills and are lining up for meal tickets. They should watch foreign channels more, please. All right, says alrighty. And B from Aleki says there's no need to emphasize on the negatives with the brain drain issue that we can do little about. Instead, we should work this to our advantage. Let's focus on training and upskilling those left behind. The whole point of training and upskilling is that you need people who are experienced to train and upskill them, B from Lucky. And if those people with the experience are gone, then how will you train and upskill them?
And, and,
Through osmosis?
and aside from that, when you don't create the right systems for continued for continued learning and upscaling of whether it's in IT or it's in medicine, like like I said some time back, a very long time ago, our hospitals have become teaching hospitals have become mere consulting clinics.
B comes up with an interesting idea. B also says that we should also work to keep our population density very low, i.e., a two-child policy and tax on additional children.
Wow,
That's an interesting one, B from Lucky.
very interesting.
Okay, this one in.
People are already doing that by themselves.
It's expensive to raise children. Emeka from Amua says, I had one of the best chemistry teachers in secondary school. Losing people like him to the UK would be painful. And oh, Lara from Lucky, what do you mean by when last did we hear of the UK doing proficiency tests for English? Okay, okay, ask that question. Moving on. Let's take a look at this next one, which I'm trying to get to. Ah, yes. Okay, let's talk about Okupe. So, the hold on. Sorry, my apologies. I seem to have lost some. Ah, there we go. From the Vanguard newspaper. I knew I would find this in the end. Okupe Pete's 4:30 p.m. deadline pays 13 million naira conviction fine. This is over the 240 million naira laundering offense that he bagged a 52-year-old. Well, the 52-year, but concurrent, so really 2 year. Yes, jail term, and he was given the option to serve 2 years in jail or pay the sum of 500,000 naira for each count that he'd been convicted of, totaling 13 million naira, and he opted to pay, and he paid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he didn't pay, then it would have been amazing. But the fact remains that he was tried for money laundering, and when you look at the issue on the money laundering charge, it wasn't the amount, it was the fact that he took cash beyond the limit that he was supposed to have taken. And this brings us back to what everybody's talking about today in terms of the new CBN policy and a number of other things. Like the cashless Nigeria has been on for the last 10 years, and these are the kind of things that have happened rather than do transfers. And the judge clearly stated those things, that this should have been transfers, but we still find Nigerians wanting to take cash all over the place. So what he is saying is that within a space of time, you moved 240 million naira in cash. That's what he's saying. Exactly. To who? For what?
Questions.
These are huge questions.
Yes.
And we're saying that we shouldn't put this, or we shouldn't implement a cashless policy and reduce the way people can get access to cash, whether it's on a daily basis, and get those who are meant to provide the services to become more responsible in the way they decide who should take so much cash and why they should take cash. Because the good thing about ensuring transfers is you can see the money trail. With this now, nobody really does know is what Okupe says that he spends the money on. That's what it is.
Now,
just leave it that way.
He's the Director General of the Presidential Campaign Council for Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi. Do you think that's this is going to have any blowback on the candidates?
I refuse to comment on that.
Why?
I'm not going to. We're talking about Okupe and money laundering. So he's been convicted of a money laundering charge. They gave him an option of fine or go to jail, and he has paid his fine. So
I'm sorry, but this is a process of a process of
the
association.
The Labour Party should have internal ways to deal with this kind of things. If they feel that for me, this is my personal opinion. If he's been convicted of money laundering, that means he is guilty of money laundering. How you internally want to process that?
I'm not talking about internally. I'm talking about public opinion here. Because right now we are in campaign season and we've got presidential candidates who are campaigning to be at the helm of affairs for the country.
He's not a presidential candidate.
I say he was a presidential candidate? Or did I say he was the Director General of the Presidential Campaign Council of the Labour Party?
And I said I couldn't comment on what the Labour Party...
No, you said you would not.
I would not comment on what actions the Labour Party would take.
I was asking you to comment on public opinion. Would this have blowback on public opinion for the candidate who is currently campaigning?
I don't know.
That's all you needed to say.
And I said I wasn't going to comment on that.
No, you didn't say you didn't.
You want to get me out of...
No, I'm just asking a question.
And I said I would not comment.
That people would put two and two. It's a logical question that follows on from the news.
I was not... Personally, I wasn't going to comment on that.
Okay, and I asked you why. That was all.
And I told you my reason.
Okay. Gosh.
Shogbe,
yes.
Let's have this show peacefully today, where it's Christmas is on
I'm
Sunday.
sorry, but it is my job to ask questions like
And you
this.
asked your question and I answered, and you
Yes.
continued to
No,
badge
I
me.
wanted
But
to
you wanted
see
my own
why.
opinion.
I wanted to, what I wanted
Was
was,
for me to tell you
mm,
whether I will have a blowback or not.
I
And
wanted
I
your
said,
opinion on whether that you thought there would be
and
a
I was,
blowback.
and I said I had no
Why are we
comment.
having this conversation on
Can we
air,
go to the
please?
next story, please?
Thank you so much. Vanguard newspaper, Ebonyi sits at home, attack victim cries for help as conditions worsen. So this is one of the victims of the December 14th attack in Ikwo local government area of Ebonyi State by enforcers of the sit at home order that was issued by the self-acclaimed disciple of Nnamdi Kanu, Simon Ekpa. So one of the victims, Henry Oko, has asked for government intervention. His condition is now critical. The victim was at the market when some masked gunmen, claiming they were enforcing the sit at home order, invaded the market, shooting sporadically and setting vehicles ablaze.
This is really sad. But we know that over the last couple of years, what has happened. I remember, I think it was last year that they actually chased children away from school that were writing their WAEC exams. I can't remember which one of the states, and I think it's the same in Boy. But it is become a major issue, and nobody's saying anything about it. Mondays in the East have become a public holiday because of sit at home. And when some people or some Nigerians just feel and wake up in the morning and think that they are the law and the authority of the state, they declare what they call sit at homes, and the governors do nothing, say nothing, and just continue to live their lives the way they want to live it. And they will blame these governors and blame the fact that, oh, because they don't have the state police, but they have, if it were other issues and they wanted to, in quote, arrest a journalist who they say was speaking, was making comments that were derogatory of a governor, the journalist will be arrested. And for years nobody has done anything about this. It's a shame. I pray that the man would come back, healthy. He was asked on the head, on the shoulder. He had 13 bullets taken out of his body, and it's just a shame.
Oh, goodness.
And of course, as usual, the law enforcement did not arrive until after the hoodlums had gone, had burned cars, had burned shops, and it's just ridiculous.
Now, I quickly want to touch on this. We've got about a minute left, so let's take this article in from the Punch. Protesters, Lagos policemen enforcing ban, kill motorcyclists. So, this is policemen attached to the Shagamu Road Police Division of Lagos State Police Command. And this happened in the Ikorodu area of Lagos. So, um, a motorcyclist said that policemen were attempting to seize a bike from a colleague of his when the gentleman Alabi intervened, and then the policemen, so they stormed the premises trying to impound motorcycles, and they were seizing a motorcycle when the deceased met them at the front gates trying to settle the matter. Then one of the police officers started cocked his gun, started shooting, and one of the stray bullets hit him.
But the police claim that that's not what happened. Because if you go further, the
Mm-hmm.
state police public relations officer Benjamin Hundeyin, in another narrative, said a mob
Said it was a
attacked
mob attack,
a
right?
police patrol team on the false belief that the team was responsible for an accident involving a motorcycle and a tricycle in the area, which led to the shooting. So, which one do we believe? I do hope the truth will come out. My condolences to the family of the motorcyclist who was killed. And as usual, the police will always speak from two sides of the mouth.
Either way, somebody has passed on, and will there be any consequences? Well, that's a question I'm getting quite tired of asking nowadays. This one in from Emeka from Amuo says task force officers in my presence this morning. In Ajao Estate, arrested someone riding a moped scooter. How is that? How that is an Okada is beyond me. And Daniel from Festac says this doing conviction is like a poison chalice for Nigerian politicians and their parties. There are so many interpretations or inferences from that conviction. We have bullion vans driving into politicians' homes on election eve saga, or laundering of funds from
Maybe
narcotics, or 13% oil derivation funds diversion,
maybe the
all
bullion
not accounted for. So, based on that, I don't expect blowback. It is what it is,
maybe the
Shokran.
bullion van wasn't carrying cash.
And we've come to the
And
end
it
of the
wasn't money
show.
laundering or either.
You can find Wadi at Wadi Ahime underscore up on Twitter. Uh, and
Thank you, Shopper, for always having me in the
Wadi,
studio.
Wadi, Wadi, Wadi. And of course, watch out for 8:15. The grapevine will be on there. Make sure you keep it tuned.
The news.